What is the secret behind the power of the true cross? How did it change the course of history? Is there any truth to the legend of Empress Helena's discovery of the true cross? Join us as we unravel the enigma surrounding this ancient artifact, delve into its enduring legacy in our world today. A time long past, the year is 326 AD, the Roman Empire, a tapestry woven with threads of diverse cultures and beliefs, stretches from the distant edges of the East to the heart of Europe. Amidst this grandeur, Jerusalem stands as a beacon of religious fervor, a city simmering with the devotion of early Christians and the remnants of Jewish resistance against Roman rule. Within this complex web of cultures and conflicts, a new figure emerges, Helena, mother of the newly crowned Emperor Constantine the Great. Her journey to the Holy Land is not merely a pilgrimage. It's a mission driven by an unshakable faith. Constantine, despite embracing Christianity, had been baptized only a few years prior. His mother, Helena, however, was a steadfast Christian, having been a catechumen for over 20 years before her son's conversion. As he rose to power, so did her influence, making her a key player in the imperial court. But it was her deep religious convictions that set her on the path to Jerusalem. At the time, the city was under the jurisdiction of the Roman prefect, Maxentius, who bore the title of Pontifex Maximus, the highest position in the Roman religion. Ironically, it was he who had constructed a pagan temple over the site of Jesus' crucifixion. This act was a symbolic erasure of the memory of Christ's sacrifice. For Helena, finding the cross became a crusade to reclaim a sacred site corrupted by paganism. Her decision to send for the skilled architects and historians is pivotal. It signals her unwavering commitment to the task ahead. These men were not just laborers, but intellectuals tasked with a monumental project, one that would rewrite history and solidify the connection between the living and the crucified Christ. When Helena arrived in Jerusalem, she wasted no time in beginning her search. The city, steeped in history and religious significance, was more than just a place for her. It was a treasure trove waiting to be explored. She chose to begin her quest at Golgotha, a place synonymous with death and suffering. According to historical accounts, the hill of Golgotha or Calvary was located outside the city walls, a place where executions and crucifixions were carried out. Here, beneath the shadow of the cross, Helena sought the relic that held the key to salvation. However, her search was not aided by the simplicity of the task. She faced a significant obstacle. The exact location of the cross was not known, only believed to be buried beneath the temple built by Emperor Hadrian. This temple was not merely a structure, but a potent symbol of the Roman authorities' disdain for early Christianity. Its existence was a constant reminder of the persecution the followers of Christ had endured. For Helena, removing this layer of conflict was crucial, both physically by unearthing the cross and metaphorically by replacing pagan worship with Christian devotion. With the weight of history pressing down on her, Helena's team set to work. Their excavation efforts were not aided by the passage of time. Over the centuries, the original site of the crucifixion had been lost, swallowed by the sands of history and human activity. Yet Helena, driven by her faith and determination, was not deterred. As the digging continued, the air hung heavy with anticipation. Each shovelful of dirt, each stone turned was a step closer to the relic that symbolized not just the death of Christ, but the hope of salvation. Days turned into weeks and the team's hopes began to dwindle. The elusive cross seemed like a phantom, always near, yet forever out of reach. Just when the shadow of disappointment loomed largest, a glimmer of hope emerged. 3 crosses were discovered, each bearing the weathered marks of time. This unexpected find introduced a new dilemma. Which of these crosses was the true cross, the very instrument of Christ's crucifixion? The task of identification fell to the bishops accompanying Helena. Their decision to use the account of the healing of the woman from the Gospels was a profound one. It wasn't just about finding an artifact, it was about locating the very essence of Christ's sacrifice. The test itself was fraught with tension. The life of a woman hung in the balance, making the stakes as high as they could possibly be. Miracles, while central to Christian theology, are often viewed with skepticism, even in the realm of faith. The healing was nothing short of miraculous. It was a sign, a divine intervention aimed at clarifying the uncertainty that shrouded the relics. When Helena learned of the miracle, she likely felt a surge of emotions. Relief, joy, and gratitude must have filled her, knowing that the true cross had been identified, but this moment was not just hers alone. It was a moment for all Christians, a confirmation of their faith and the message of salvation that Christ had brought. The cross, now confirmed as the true cross, didn't remain whole. Instead, it was divided into 3 distinct portions. Each piece was destined to become a powerful symbol in its own right. One portion stayed in Jerusalem, a constant reminder of the city's pivotal role in Christian history. Another was sent to Rome, the seat of the Roman Empire and a place where Christianity was steadily gaining ground. The third piece ended up in Constantinople, the new imperial capital, ensuring that the symbol of Christ's sacrifice was present in the heart of the Eastern Empire. The division of the cross was not just a logistical decision. It was a strategic move to spread the power of the relic across the vast expanse of the empire. Each fragment became a focal point of veneration, drawing pilgrims and believers from far and wide. In Jerusalem, the relic's presence helped to establish the city's status as a holy place, a destination for Christians around the world. In Rome and Constantinople, the cross served as a potent symbol of faith in the midst of a world still predominantly pagan. As the Roman Empire fell and Europe descended into the Dark Ages, the true cross continued to hold its own. It survived invasions, persecutions, and the shifting sands of power. Even when pieces were stolen or lost, the legend of the true cross endured. It lived on in the hearts of the faithful, passed down through stories and whispered prayers. During the Crusades, the Western Church reclaimed Jerusalem and a fragment of the true cross was taken back to Europe, further solidifying its hold on medieval Christendom. Is there any truth to the legend? The discovery of the true cross by Empress Helena remains an iconic event in Christian history. However, the historical accuracy of this narrative has been a subject of ongoing debate and scrutiny. On one hand, the story finds support in the writings of early Christian historians, such as Eusebius of Caesarea, who chronicled the event in his book, The History of the Life of Constantine. For them, the discovery of the cross was not just a historical event, but a divine occurrence that marked a pivotal moment in the early church. The discovery legitimized Constantine's claim to the empire, aligning him with the newly embraced state religion of Christianity. It also established Jerusalem as a sacred city, a status it has retained throughout much of history. However, modern historians take a more skeptical approach. While acknowledging the importance of the event in the development of Christianity, they question the historicity of the narrative. One major issue is the lack of archaeological evidence to support the discovery of the cross. Despite extensive excavations in Jerusalem, no artifact has been confirmed as part of the true cross. Furthermore, the accounts of the discovery are considered hagiographical, meaning they portray Helena and Constantine in an overly reverent light, which is common in early Christian texts. This hagiographical tendency raises questions about the reliability of the accounts and the potential for embellishment. Modern historians also point out the political implications of the discovery. The discovery of the cross served to bolster Constantine's image as a divinely appointed ruler at a time when he needed to consolidate his power. This raises questions about the motivations behind the discovery and the potential for manipulation. In conclusion, the story of Empress Helena and the discovery of the true cross continues to fascinate and inspire. Whether viewed as a historical event or a theological narrative, it has had a profound impact on the development of Christianity and the course of Western civilization. While the historicity of the discovery may be debated, the significance of the cross in Christian faith and history remains undeniable. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more captivating historical tales. And if you have your own stories to share, we invite you to do so in the comments below. Let's continue to explore, learn, and grow together. Have you ever wondered why people still venerate the relics of the true cross today? And have you ever wondered how so many fragments of the true cross exist? We know that Jesus was crucified on the cross, but we also know that only one cross existed. So where did all those fragments come from? Today we're going to answer these two questions. Many of us tend to think like scientists, meaning we think that before we can believe something, we need irrefutable proof or evidence. But the problem is that things of faith are rarely, if ever, proven. Instead, faith demands that we choose to believe in the truth of God's Word. This is why we must understand that there are some aspects of our faith that we cannot explain using science or logic. But once we accept this reality, peace and joy will fill our hearts because we won't be trying to understand everything. But let's get back to the relics of the true cross. At the heart of Christian history, the veneration of relics of the true cross stands as one of the most controversial and thought-provoking issues. Since the early centuries of Christianity, stories began to circulate about the discovery of fragments from the cross on which Christ was crucified, and these fragments became objects of reverence for believers across the world. However, with the proliferation of these relics and their distribution among numerous churches and monasteries, questions arose regarding their authenticity and history. How then has this practice endured through the centuries despite the doubts surrounding the genuineness of many of these fragments? Well, the answer is simple. The Catholic Church teaches that the value of relics does not depend on their physical authenticity, but rather on their symbolic meaning and spiritual significance. In other words, even if a relic is not genuinely from the true cross, it can still be venerated as long as it represents the suffering and death of Christ. But now the question arises, how did this all start? The roots of the veneration of the true cross trace back to the 4th century AD, when Empress Helena, the mother of Emperor Constantine the Great, claimed to have discovered the true cross during her visit to Jerusalem. According to historical accounts, Helena conducted excavations at the site of Golgotha, where she found 3 crosses. Guided by the Bishop of Jerusalem, the true cross was identified through a miracle, the healing of a sick woman upon touching it. From that moment, the true cross became a central symbol in Christian piety, and fragments of it began to be distributed to churches across the Byzantine Empire and beyond. As time went on, many stories started to surface claiming that these fragments possessed miraculous powers that could heal the sick and protect against evil. These claims led to a surge in the discovery of new relics, and soon countless fragments of the true cross were being venerated in churches and monasteries throughout Europe. The proliferation of these relics raised doubts even in the early centuries of Christianity. Some theologians and philosophers questioned the authenticity of these relics, wondering how so many pieces from the same cross could exist. Prominent figures such as St. John Chrysostom and St. Jerome pointed out the difficulty of verifying the history and origin of each fragment. Despite these doubts, the practice of venerating relics persisted and spread. During the Middle Ages, relics, including fragments of the true cross, became an integral part of religious and political life in Europe. Kingdoms and principalities vied to possess these relics, seeing them as a way to enhance their religious legitimacy and power. Monasteries and churches displayed these relics as major attractions, drawing in pilgrims and donations. This era witnessed the emergence of dozens, if not hundreds, of fragments attributed to the true cross, further intensifying the debate regarding their authenticity and origin. One of the central figures associated with the veneration of the relics of the true cross is Saint Helena, the mother of Emperor Constantine. Helena is venerated as a saint in the Catholic Church, although it's important to note that her canonization occurred much later in history. According to tradition, following the legalization of Christianity under her son Constantine's rule, Helena traveled to Jerusalem around 326 AD to find the relics of Jesus Christ. She is credited with finding not only the cross on which Jesus was crucified, but also other significant relics such as the nails used in the crucifixion and the title that was placed above Jesus' head. The discovery of the true cross was a pivotal moment in Christian history. The belief that Helena found the actual cross added immense religious significance to the veneration of relics. As the story spread, fragments from the cross were sought after and brought to various churches and monasteries across the Byzantine Empire and beyond. One of the most famous accounts of Helena's discovery is found in a 7th century text called the Acts of Saint Helena. This account provides a detailed narrative of Helena's journey to Jerusalem and her subsequent discovery of the true cross. It is important to mention that this and other texts recounting Helena's story are considered legendary and historical accounts. They contain elements of faith and tradition that were later incorporated into the veneration of relics. Now, do we really know that Helena was the first to discover relics of the true cross? No. The answer is no. In fact, non-canonical Gospels tell us that Joseph of Arimathea took Jesus' body down from the cross and placed it in a tomb. So technically, he was the first to discover the true cross. But we must remember that we are discussing relics here, which are remains that are venerated as belonging to a particular person or object of religious significance. Therefore, the veneration of relics began with the discovery of the true cross by Helena, since that's when fragments of it started to be distributed to churches and monasteries. The widespread veneration of the relics of the true cross can be attributed to several factors. The first factor to consider is the central role of the cross in Christian theology. The crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ on the cross are pivotal events in Christianity, representing salvation and redemption for humanity. As a result, relics associated with the cross hold immense religious significance for Christians. Secondly, the desire to possess holy relics stemmed from the belief in their miraculous powers and ability to convey special blessings. Relics were believed to possess the power to heal the sick, protect against evil, and even work miracles. This belief fueled the desire among churches and individuals to acquire and venerate these relics. Additionally, relics became a focus of political and religious rivalry, particularly during the Middle Ages. Monarchs and rulers sought to obtain relics to enhance their prestige and religious legitimacy. This competition led to the acquisition and display of relics as a means of attracting pilgrims and generating revenue for churches and monasteries. Furthermore, the Church's promotion of relics contributed to their widespread veneration. The Catholic Church played a significant role in regulating and promoting the veneration of relics. Through papal bulls and other official documents, the Church established guidelines for the use and display of relics, granting them religious legitimacy and significance. As time progressed, the veneration of the relics of the true cross became deeply ingrained in Christian tradition, despite ongoing doubts regarding their authenticity. The Catholic Church's stance on the matter is that the value of relics lies in their symbolic meaning and spiritual significance rather than their physical authenticity. This perspective allows for the continued veneration of relics even in the absence of concrete historical evidence. In recent times, scientific methods have been employed to analyze some of the relics of the true cross. Some analyses have suggested that certain fragments date back to the Roman period, providing circumstantial evidence supporting their authenticity. However, other relics have revealed more recent origins, casting doubt on their connection to the actual true cross. Despite these findings, the veneration of the relics has not diminished, as faith often transcends material and scientific considerations. In conclusion, the veneration of relics of the true cross persists today due to a combination of theological, historical, and devotional factors. The cross holds deep significance in Christian theology, and relics associated with it are believed to possess spiritual power to offer a connection to Christ's suffering and death. Despite scientific doubts surrounding the authenticity of some relics, the Catholic Church's emphasis on the symbolic and devotional value of relics allows for their continued veneration. As such, millions of Christians continue to hold these relics in reverence, recognizing their importance in the history and traditions of their faith. It is said that everything old becomes new again. Well, the saying certainly applies to the veneration of the Holy Cross in the Christian world today. And it is interesting to note that every September, Christians around the world come together to celebrate the Feast of the Exaltation of the Cross, also known as Ho Cross Day or Rudmas. But have you ever wondered, how did Saint Helena's discovery of the true cross influence Christian liturgical celebrations like Rudmas? And what was the contribution of Saint Helena in building up the cult of the true cross? Let's find out in today's episode. Saint Helena, who later became the mother of Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, was born in the city of Druso in Bithynia, located in the Roman province of Asia Minor. Her parents were devout Christians, and so Helena received a good Christian upbringing despite being a pagan at the time of her marriage to Constantius. But even after marrying Constantius, she still remained a pagan until the birth of her son Constantine. After his birth, Helena began to turn away from paganism and become a Christian, showing strong interest in the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. After Constantius's death, Helena accompanied her son Constantine on his military campaigns. And while staying in Nicomedia, she helped a certain noblewoman named Fausta, who had been condemned unjustly to death by the governor of the city. When the governor demanded that Fausta should bow down and worship false gods, she refused and was sentenced to death. Helena went to see the governor and asked him to spare Fausta's life because she had done nothing wrong. However, he would not listen to her pleas. So Helena prayed fervently, asking God to punish the unjust ruler. Miraculously, a column of fire suddenly shot up from the ground where they were standing, causing the governor to fall down and be burned to death. This miracle convinced Fausta and everyone else present that Helena was favored by God, so Fausta was set free and Helena's reputation as a miracle worker spread far and wide. Meanwhile, news reached Helena about the persecutions of Christians under the reign of Maxentius, who ruled Rome. Determined to help her persecuted fellow Christians, she used her influence over Constantine to persuade him to fight against Maxentius. Together, they formulated a plan. Helena pretended to support Maxentius, sending him gifts and flattering him through letters, all while secretly communicating with Constantine to keep him informed about the emperor's movements and plans. Eventually, Constantine defeated Maxentius at the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 312 AD, marking a turning point in the history of Christianity as it led to the Edict of Milan, which granted religious tolerance to Christians within the Roman Empire. This victory enabled Helena to travel to Jerusalem without any hindrance. It was here that she began her search for the true cross. Tradition says that while walking through the streets of Jerusalem, Helena came across a woman who had a tumor the size of a small child on her shoulder. Moved with compassion, Helena touched the woman's shoulder, and immediately the tumor fell to the ground, revealing itself to be a small box. When they opened it, they found a cross-shaped piece of wood inside. Excited by this discovery, Helena ordered that the spot where the box was found be excavated. And sure enough, 3 crosses were unearthed. Not knowing which one was the true cross, Helena decided to perform a test. She placed the 3 crosses on 3 sick men and prayed that God would reveal the authentic relic. Miraculously, the man on whom the true cross was placed was instantly cured. Overjoyed, Helena realized that they had found the actual cross on which Jesus Christ had been crucified. To commemorate this momentous event, Helena built a church over the site of the Crucifixion, enshrining the true cross within it. The discovery of the true cross had a profound impact on the Christian world. Before this, Christians had venerated the cross as a symbol of their faith, but now they had a tangible connection to the instrument of Christ's suffering and resurrection. The veneration of the cross grew rapidly, and soon churches and monasteries were built around the world to house relics of the true cross. In addition to the Feast of the Nativity and the Resurrection, the Church established 2 new feasts to honor the discovery of the cross. The first was the Feast of the Finding of the Holy Cross, celebrated on May 3rd, commemorating the day when Helena and her companions discovered the cross in Jerusalem. The second feast was the Feast of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross, celebrated on September 14th. It commemorates the later recovery of the true cross from the Persians by the order of Emperor Heraclius in 629 AD. Both feasts were occasions for great rejoicing and celebration, With processions, sermons, and the display of relics of the true cross, the impact of Helena's discovery extended beyond the realm of religion, influencing literature, art, and culture. Writers like Geoffrey Chaucer and Edmund Custis immortalized her in their works, depicting her as a pious and virtuous queen. Artists captured the drama of the cross's discovery in paintings and sculptures, further solidifying Helena's place in popular imagination. Rudmas, or the Feast of the Exaltation of the Cross, has been observed on September 14th since the 7th century. It commemorates the significant events, the discovery of the true cross by Saint Helena, and its return to the control of the Eastern Roman Emperor Heraclius in 629 AD. The feast is widely celebrated in various Christian denominations, each with its own unique traditions and rituals. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, the feast is celebrated with a special divine liturgy and the veneration of the Holy Cross. The day is marked by the chanting of the hymn "Lift Up Your Heads, O Gates," and the procession of the cross with the faithful venerating it, partaking of the Holy Eucharist, adorned with gold or silver. In the Catholic Church, the feast is observed with a special Mass and the blessing of crosses. Some churches hold processions with the cross, while others organize the veneration of a relic of the true cross. The Lutheran Church observes the feast with a special collect for the day in the Book of Common Prayer, encouraging Christians to reflect on the significance of the cross in their lives. Other Protestant denominations also recognize the feast, emphasizing the central role of the cross in the Christian faith. Many Christians observe the day by wearing a cross necklace or displaying a cross in their homes. It is a reminder of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and his victory over sin and death. The origins of the name Rudmas can be traced back to Old English, where Rud referred to the cross and Mas meant mass or celebration. The feast was established in the 7th century to commemorate the return of the true cross to the custody of the Eastern Roman Emperor Heraclius after it had been captured by the Persians. During the reign of Khosrau II, the Persians seized Jerusalem and stole the true cross in 614 AD. Years later, Emperor Heraclius launched a campaign to recover the stolen relic. On September 14, 629 AD, his army recaptured Jerusalem and recovered the true cross. This event was initially celebrated independently from the discovery of the cross by Saint Helena. However, over time, the two events were linked, and the feast became known as the Exaltation of the Holy Cross. One of the most striking aspects of the celebration of Rudmas is the use of the cross as a central symbol. The cross is carried in processions, displayed in churches, and worn as a symbol of faith by many Christians. The cross is a potent reminder of Jesus Christ's sacrifice for humanity and his victory over death. In Eastern Orthodox tradition, the cross is often carried in procession during the Divine Liturgy, and the faithful venerate it during the service. In Catholic tradition, the cross may be blessed during the Mass, and some churches may have special relics of the true cross for veneration. The prominence of the cross in the celebration of Rudmas underscores its significance in the Christian faith. It serves as a reminder of the foundational event of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and his resurrection, which are central to Christian theology. Theological reflections on the nature of the cross and its meaning for humanity are another important aspect of celebrating rhododendron. In many Christian traditions, the cross is seen as a symbol of suffering, sacrifice, and redemption. It represents the willingness of Jesus Christ to endure death on the cross for the sake of humanity's salvation. At the same time, the cross is also a symbol of victory and triumph. It signifies the resurrection of Jesus Christ and the promise of eternal life for those who believe in him. These paradoxical aspects of the cross are often reflected in the prayers, hymns, and homilies associated with the celebration of Rudmas. They invite Christians to contemplate the depth and complexity of the cross and its meaning for their lives. Rudmas is celebrated with a variety of traditional foods and customs depending on the region and denomination. In some places, special dishes may be prepared to commemorate the feast, such as traditional breads or pastries. In other places, the celebration may include bonfires or processions with traditional music and dancing. These traditions serve to make the celebration of rhododendron a joyful and festive occasion, expressing the gratitude of Christians for the gift of the cross and the salvation it represents. In conclusion, the Feast of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross serves as a potent reminder of the enduring legacy of Jesus Christ and his sacrifice for humanity. The story of Saint Helena's discovery of the true cross adds a layer of wonder and devotion to this celebration. As Christians around the world come together to venerate the cross and reflect on its significance, they are united in their faith and their gratitude for the salvation that it represents. Whether through prayer, reflection, or participation in traditional customs, the celebration of rhododendron offers an opportunity for Christians to deepen their relationship with Jesus Christ and to renew their commitment to following his example of love and sacrifice. So the next time you visit your church and see a relic said to be from the true cross, remember that its journey to your sanctuary was paved with legends. The miraculous recovery of a dying woman, the revival of a dead man, stories that sound like miracles themselves. Each cross held aloft might have seemed to be the true cross. Each touch of the relic could have felt like divine intervention. These legends, though not part of the strict biblical narrative, enrich the story of Christ's crucifixion and resurrection, adding layers of faith and devotion that make the relic more than just wood, but a tangible link to the divine. And in the absence of historical evidence, these legends have shaped the beliefs of millions, passing down the story of the true cross through the ages. As time went on, the veneration of the true cross grew, becoming one of the most revered symbols in Christianity. But as with any artifact steeped in such profound meaning and age, many legends and tales have sprung up around it. Let's explore these fascinating stories that add layers of wonder to the already significant relic. First, let's talk about the healing of the sick. Legend has it that simply touching the true cross could heal the sick. Imagine a medieval village plagued by disease, despair hanging heavy in the air. Then a traveling monk arrives carrying a fragment of the true cross, and hope is rekindled. As he blesses the sick with the relic, one by one, they begin to awaken from their sick beds, cured by the power of Christ's suffering. While we can't verify these accounts, they highlight the immense faith and desperation of the people at the time. For them, the cross wasn't just a symbol, it was a lifeline to God. Next, let's discuss the protection from evil. A popular legend claims that the true cross could ward off evil and bring good fortune. Picture a world filled with witches, demons, and dark magic. Now imagine a peasant hanging a small piece of the true cross over their doorway, finding solace against the lurking evil. This belief probably stemmed from the cross being the instrument of Christ's victory over Satan. In their minds, the relic's presence would repel evil, bringing peace and safety. Another compelling tale revolves around the discovery of the true cross. What if I told you that the cross wasn't just found, it was chosen? Legend goes that when Saint Helena, the mother of Emperor Constantine, embarked on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, she didn't just unearth the true cross, she underwent a series of tests to prove her unwavering faith. Just think about it, she travels to a ruined Jerusalem, seeking the cross amidst the debris. But how does she know which cross is the right one? According to one version of the story, 3 crosses are unearthed, leaving Helena and her team puzzled. But then a miracle occurs, a dying woman is brought forth, and when the first 2 crosses are placed on her, nothing happens. But as the 3rd cross is placed upon her, she miraculously heals. Now, that's quite a plot twist, isn't it? This legend emphasizes the importance of unwavering faith and the profound connection between Christ and his followers. Now, let's talk about another extraordinary tale, the one involving the 30 pieces of silver. Remember Judas Iscariot, the disciple who betrayed Jesus? Well, legend has it that when Judas realized what he had done, he threw the 30 pieces of silver he received for betraying Christ into the temple and left. But then something incredible happened. The coins stuck to the true cross, forever binding Judas's fate to Christ's sacrifice. This legend serves as a reminder of the consequences of betrayal, but also of the lasting impact of Christ's sacrifice. And let's not forget about the legend of the Tree of Life. What if I told you that the true cross wasn't just a symbol of death, but also of eternal life? That's right. Some legends claim that after Christ's resurrection, a piece of the true cross was planted in a garden, and from it grew a tree bearing golden apples. These apples symbolized immortality, offering those who ate them eternal life. Now, doesn't that sound like something straight out of a fairy tale? But remember, the true cross represents Christ's victory over death. So it's fitting that it should also symbolize everlasting life. Moving on, let's explore the legend of King Og's defeat. Ever heard of King Og, the Bashan king who tried to harm Jesus? Legend has it that when Og attacked Jesus, he was stopped in his tracks by the true cross. The very sight of the relic sent him running away defeated, never to return. This tale underscores the immense power attributed to the true cross, capable not only of causing Christ's death, but also of repelling those who opposed him. Next, let's delve into the legend of the River Jordan. You might be familiar with the story of Jesus' baptism in the River Jordan. Well, legend says that a piece of the true cross was used as a stave in the vessel that carried Jesus to be baptized by John the Baptist. This legend highlights the significance of the true cross in pivotal moments in Christ's life, emphasizing its role in his journey to salvation. Now, let's talk about the legend of the flight into Egypt. Do you remember when Joseph, Mary, and Jesus fled to Egypt to escape King Herod's wrath? Well, legend has it that during their escape, they were guided by a star that shone brightly and pointed the way to safety. And guess what? That star was actually a fragment of the true cross, miraculously guiding the Holy Family to sanctuary. Talk about a celestial beacon of hope. Another intriguing tale revolves around the Emperor Licinius. You see, when Licinius persecuted Christians, he issued an edict requiring everyone to worship false gods. But legend says that when he touched the true cross, his hand was immediately burned. This legend showcases the power of the true cross as a symbol of Christian faith and the challenges faced by early Christians in a pagan world. Let's move on to the legend of the Lance of Longinus. Do you recall the Roman soldier named Longinus who pierced Jesus' side with a lance? Legend says that when Longinus did this, he was blinded, but then something miraculous happened. He dipped his lance in Jesus' blood and suddenly he could see again. What's more, the very point of the lance where Jesus' blood touched became a relic, retaining its miraculous powers. This legend adds a unique twist to the crucifixion story, highlighting the transformative power of Christ's sacrifice. Finally, let's discuss the legend of the Tree of Gold. Remember the story of King Solomon and his wisdom? Well, legend says that when Solomon prayed for wisdom, God appeared to him in a dream and told him to go to the top of Mount Moriah, where he would find a tree filled with gold. But it turned out that this tree was none other than the true cross, which God had miraculously covered with gold to test Solomon's faith. Now, doesn't that sound like a divine test of faith? Each of these legends adds a layer of depth and meaning to the already profound story of the true cross. They remind us of the enduring power of faith and the lengths to which people will go to connect with the divine. So the next time you come across a piece of the true cross, remember that its history is as rich and complex as the faith it represents. While these legends add a captivating narrative to the history of the true cross, it's essential to recognize that they are not part of the accepted historical or biblical accounts. Nevertheless, they offer a fascinating glimpse into the cultural, religious, and historical context of the time, reflecting the deep faith and devotion of the people who created these stories. One of the most significant aspects of these legends is the emphasis they place on the miraculous powers attributed to the true cross. The belief that touching the cross could heal the sick, ward off evil, and even raise the dead highlights the desperation and hope that people placed in this relic. In a world filled with illness, superstition, and fear, the promise of divine intervention through the true cross was a source of great comfort. Furthermore, these legends often served as a means of transmitting religious teachings and values. Stories like the healing of the sick or the guidance of the tree of life reinforced the central message of Christianity, emphasizing themes of faith, redemption, and eternal life. By incorporating these narratives into their religious practices, communities could impart important theological concepts to new generations, ensuring the preservation of their faith. Moreover, the legends surrounding the true cross demonstrate the human desire to connect with the divine through physical relics. The search for tangible objects associated with Jesus Christ reflects a longing to experience the sacred in the everyday, to bridge the gap between the spiritual and material realms. For many, possessing or venerating a fragment of the true cross offered a sense of closeness to Christ and his teachings. However, it's crucial to acknowledge that these legends are not mere fabrications, but rather products of a deeply religious and superstitious age. In a time when the line between history and mythology was blurred, these stories served as a way to express profound theological truths and communal values within the constraints of cultural norms and beliefs. In conclusion, the legends surrounding the true cross offer a captivating window into the world of early Christianity, revealing the immense faith, devotion, and longing for divine connection that shaped religious practices and beliefs. While these narratives may not be historically verifiable, they provide valuable insights into the evolution of Christian theology and the human desire to forge a tangible link with the divine. So as we continue to explore the mysteries and significance of the true cross, let us also appreciate the rich tapestry of legends that have woven themselves into its enduring legacy. In medieval Europe, a person's religious devotion was often measured by their proximity to the sacred. And what was more sacred than the very objects that had belonged to Christ or his saints? But as one might imagine, preserving every last nail from the crucifixion or every fragment of a saintly rib was impossible. So people came up with a rather ingenious solution. They believed that small pieces of relics would retain the same spiritual power and sanctity as the whole object. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are exploring how the tiniest fragments of Jesus' crucifixion stake or a saint's finger could save your soul. This may sound bizarre, but this was a common belief in the Middle Ages. Religious relics, which are physical objects connected to a revered person or event, were incredibly popular during this period. From the 9th to the 15th century, Europeans believed that relics like the crown of thorns or pieces of the true cross on which Christ was crucified were not just historical artifacts, but were brimming with supernatural power. The logic was simple. If a relic was believed to have healing powers, then a tiny bit of that relic would also have healing powers. If the true cross could save you from damnation, then a fragment of it could do the trick, too. This concept is encapsulated in the medieval theory of the indestructibility of relics. It meant that a relic's sanctity was not diminished when it was divided into smaller pieces. On the contrary, each piece continued to embody the holiness of the original, no matter how small the shard. This belief encouraged the fragmentation of important relics, allowing countless small pieces to circulate throughout Europe. The popularity of relics can be traced back to the early Christian tradition, but they really took off during the Crusades. European Christians seized Jerusalem in 1099 and quickly set about locating holy sites connected to Jesus' life. Over the next few decades, they uncovered or supposedly uncovered the manger where he was born, the stone fountain where Mary and Jesus were baptized, and the very cross on which Jesus died. Soon, fragments of these relics were being sent back to Europe for safekeeping and veneration. As the centuries passed, however, the original relics became lost or stolen or perhaps never existed at all. Yet the demand for relics remained high, so forgers stepped in to fill the gap. By the 12th century, there were entire workshops dedicated to creating fake relics out of ordinary materials like wood, bone, or metal. These cleverly crafted fakes were then sold to unsuspecting buyers who sought to enrich their churches with authentic relics. Even some popes got in on the act, selling fake relics to raise money for the church. One of the biggest markets for these relics was among wealthy nobles and ambitious bishops eager to enhance their status through displays of piety. For example, in 1155, King Louis VII of France purchased a piece of the true cross for the staggering sum of 800 livres. That's the equivalent of about 45,000 euros or 50,000 US dollars in today's money. To put that into context, an entire kingdom was once bought and sold for less. For ordinary folk, relics offered a tangible connection to the divine. A touch of the Virgin Mary's girdle, for instance, was said to ensure the safe delivery of babies. While the true value of these relics is debated by historians, the perceived value was immeasurable. These fragments weren't just religious artifacts. They were powerful talismans that could bring about miracles. In fact, the market for relics wasn't limited to Europe. During the Crusades, European Christians seized Jerusalem in 1099 and quickly set about locating holy sites connected to Jesus' life. Over the next few decades, they uncovered or supposedly uncovered the manger where he was born, the stone fountain where Mary and Jesus were baptized, and the very cross on which Jesus died. Soon, fragments of these relics were being sent back to Europe for safekeeping and veneration. It was around this time that the Catholic Church began to play a more active role in the relic trade. In 1150, Pope Eugene III issued a papal bull that established strict guidelines for handling and displaying relics. He decreed that relics should be kept in public places where they could be venerated, not hidden away in private collections. The Pope also established a special court to verify the authenticity of relics and punish those who peddled forgeries. But not everyone was comfortable with the growing importance of relics. Some theologians, like the English monk John of Salisbury, argued that relics were nothing more than empty rituals that had no real connection to the divine. Others, like the German theologian Arnold of Saxony, believed that relics were dangerous because they distracted people from true forms of piety. These criticisms did little to slow down the relic trade. In the 13th century, relics were still in high demand and forgers were still finding new ways to fool the public. One of the most infamous relic forgeries was the sale of the Holy Lance, which was supposedly used to pierce Jesus' side during the Crucifixion. The lance was sold to the English king in 1165, but it turned out to be a fake. Despite this embarrassing episode, relic collecting continued to thrive. By the 14th century, the Black Death had killed millions of Europeans, and people were desperate for ways to protect themselves from the disease. Many turned to relics as a source of comfort and healing. The most popular relic of the time was the scapular of Saint Francis, a religious order founded in 1208. The scapular was a small piece of cloth that was worn around the neck and was said to protect its wearer from the plague. Yet for all their popularity, relics had their limits. They couldn't save people from every ailment, and they certainly couldn't save people from the plague. In fact, the plague may have contributed to the decline of relic collecting because as the death toll rose, people became more desperate and less willing to part with their money. That's not to say that the relic trade disappeared overnight. People continued to collect relics well into the 15th century, but the fervor had definitely cooled. By the time the Renaissance rolled around, relics were mostly seen as quaint relics of the past. Despite the eventual decline of relic collecting, these seemingly bizarre objects played a major role in medieval society. They gave people a way to connect with the divine in a tangible way. They provided comfort in times of crisis, and they allowed people to display their wealth and piety. Most importantly, relics offer us a window into the medieval mind. They reveal a world where religion and commerce were intertwined and where the line between faith and superstition was often blurred. Have you ever heard tales of individuals who touched a cross and were instantly healed? These stories might sound like something out of a fairy tale, but they are deeply rooted in Christian tradition. Today, we are going to discuss a truly fascinating topic, the historical stories of healing by the touch of the cross. Now, before we dive into the heart of this video, let's take a moment to appreciate your presence here. If you find our videos valuable, we kindly ask you to support us by leaving a like so that more people can discover these incredible stories. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so and stay informed about our upcoming content. We've got many more exciting topics waiting to be explored together. Without further ado, let's delve into the stories of healing by the touch of the cross. It's important to note that throughout Christian history, numerous stories have surfaced claiming that simply touching a cross or relic associated with Christ's crucifixion could bring about miraculous healing. While verifying the authenticity of these accounts is challenging due to their reliance on faith and the absence of empirical evidence, they offer a unique window into the evolution of religious beliefs and the profound impact of faith on people's lives. Let's start with the story of Saint Francis Xavier, a prominent missionary and saint in the Catholic Church. According to legend, while he was in India in the 16th century, Saint Francis Xavier encountered a paralytic who had been ill for years. After hearing about the saint's reputation for healing, the man's relatives carried him to meet Saint Francis Xavier, hoping for a miracle. Upon seeing their devotion, the saint blessed the man and instructed him to return home and lie down. Remarkably, the paralytic experienced instantaneous healing, regaining the ability to walk and becoming completely cured. This story emphasizes the transformative power of faith and the belief in the sanctity of the cross. Moving forward to the 19th century, we encounter the story of a young woman named Mary Aiken, who later became known as Sister Mary of the Cross, while she was still a laywoman. Mary Aiken suffered from a severe and painful spinal condition that left her bedridden and without hope of recovery. Despite the despair that surrounded her, she never lost her faith, and when her local priest visited her and offered her the opportunity to receive a piece of the true cross, she firmly refused, declaring that she didn't need anything from the cross because she already possessed it within herself. This unwavering faith and her intimate connection with Christ led to an extraordinary event. As Sister Mary of the Cross recounted, her spine straightened miraculously, freeing her from the torment of her illness and enabling her to stand up and walk. This healing experience deeply affected her life, shaping her decision to dedicate herself to God and ultimately leading her to become a Carmelite nun. Her story highlights the profound impact that the belief in the healing power of the cross can have on an individual's life, emphasizing that sometimes the cross becomes a source of strength even without physical contact. Another remarkable story involves a French soldier named Pierre Joly, who during the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 1871 found himself captured and imprisoned by the Prussians. In captivity, he contracted a serious case of smallpox, which caused blindness and left him close to death. Miraculously, a priest smuggled in a piece of the true cross, believing that its divine power could save the dying man. When Joly saw the cross, he remembered his faith and asked to receive the last sacraments. Immediately after receiving communion, he experienced healing, his eyes opened and he was able to relate the extraordinary event. Impressed by this miracle, the prison staff allowed the priest to leave, and Joly was subsequently transferred to a hospital in Paris where he made a full recovery. This story exemplifies the resilience of faith even in the darkest moments of adversity and showcases the potential of the cross to work miracles beyond physical healing, offering solace and strength in the face of death. There's also the story of an Italian monk named Brother Thomas of Pisa, who lived during the 14th century. Legend has it that he suffered from a severe skin disease called lupus vulgaris, which covered his body in ulcers and sores. Despite his illness, he remained committed to his religious duties and continued to pray and serve in the monastery. One day, while in prayer, he had a vision of Christ, who told him to go to the sea and wash himself in the water. Though skeptical, Thomas followed this advice, and upon submerging himself in the sea, his wounds immediately began to heal. He emerged from the water cured and filled with joy, praising God for his miraculous healing. From then on, he dedicated his life to spreading the word of God and sharing his experience of God's power and mercy. His story illustrates the transformative potential of faith and the healing power of the cross. While these stories are deeply rooted in Christian tradition, they often blend historical accounts with elements of faith and the supernatural. Verifying the authenticity of these stories through conventional historical means can be challenging as they frequently rely on personal testimonies miracles and divine interventions that fall outside the scope of empirical evidence. However, their value lies in providing insights into the beliefs, experiences, and relationship with God held by individuals throughout history. These narratives reflect a profound human desire for healing, faith, and hope in the face of illness, suffering, and death. People throughout history have turned to religious symbols, rituals, and figures like Jesus Christ and the cross for comfort, strength, and the promise of redemption. In conclusion, the historical stories of healing by the touch of the cross continue to fascinate and inspire people today. These tales offer a glimpse into the deep connection between faith, healing, and the enduring legacy of Jesus Christ. Whether viewed as historical accounts, religious miracles, or symbolic expressions of faith, these stories enrich our understanding of human spirituality and the quest for healing and connection with the divine. Before we part ways, we invite you to share your thoughts and experiences. Have you come across similar stories in your own life or in your studies of Christian history?